Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of this video series. In this part we'll focus on the setup. First and foremost, we'll create our React app using the terminal. Next, we'll configure Tailwind CSS. This requires a few steps that are documented on the Tailwind website. I'll leave a link in the description in case anyone wanted to read further, but I'll go through each step in this video. Then we'll import a Google font to make the app have a nice and unique look. For the next step, we'll download important libraries that will be used throughout this project. This includes Heroicons, which can be used for certain graphics such as the search bar, and Recharts, which will be used for creating the stock chart. I'll then demonstrate how to create a Finnhub API key and how to use this in our project. Next, from the Finnhub API, we'll import some mock data that can be used as a placeholder when we're creating some of the user interfaces. This, of course, will be later replaced with data directly from the Finnhub API. Lastly, we'll add any remaining config files. So, let's get started. To create our React app, we'll enter the following command: npx create React app, and then we'll give it a title. I'll call it stock dashboard. Once we enter this command, it might take a few minutes to set up. Once the React app has been created, we'll navigate into that directory using the cd command. When we've navigated into the directory, we can open VS Code by entering code dot. So now we should see VS Code up and running with the new React app we just created. We're now ready to proceed with the installation of Tailwind. In greater detail, Tailwind CSS is a framework that comes with many utility classes for styling. This includes sizing, colors, typography, shadows, and much more. We'll install Tailwind CSS by entering some commands in the terminal. You can copy and paste these directly from the Tailwind setup guide. I'll leave a link in the description. Let's start with the first one. I'll copy this and put it in our terminal. Once we're done with the install, let's proceed with the initialization. Next, we can proceed to step number 3 in the setup guide. Let's copy this in. And now let's head over to our tailwind.config.js. Let's replace the content with what we just copied. Next, step 4. Let's copy this and place it in our index.css. I'll replace everything here and add this in. I'll also make some minor modifications to our tailwind.config.js file. In particular, I'll extend some themes that aren't in our Tailwind classes. For colors, I'll add white and none. For border width, I'll add 1 pixel. For this next step, I'll be using a Google font called Quicksand. We can find this on fonts.google.com. To import this into React, on the right side, let's copy and paste these links. Then head over to the public folder, and inside the index.html, we can copy paste these. Next, we'll need to apply these CSS rules. So head over to the tailwind.config.js. Inside our extend, we'll create a font family we'll title this quicksand. And for the properties, we'll give this quicksand and sans serif, as was indicated right over here. Now we can continue with installing the libraries that we'll be using. As we mentioned earlier, we'll be using Heroicons and Recharts. Let's go ahead and write npm install @heroicons/react space recharts, and this will install both libraries. We'll now take a look at the Finnhub API and how to generate an API key. Head over to finnhub.io, and from this webpage, click Get Free API Key. You'll be prompted to enter name, email, and password to sign up. Once you're done signing up, you'll receive the API key. Once we've generated the API key, we'll then navigate into VS Code. We'll create a .env file. This is where we'll be able to store environment variables. In this case, it'll be the Finnhub API key. We'll create a variable called React App API key. And then here you can place the string, whatever it may be. It's important that this variable starts with React App in capitalized letters. Another very important part to mention is that in our .getignore file, we'll add the .env to this file. And this will prevent the API key from being published to something like GitHub, where it may be used by other people. This is a very important part. For this next step, I'll be using the Finnhub API to import some mock data into our React app. This will be used as a placeholder while we're building the user interfaces. On this webpage, click on API documentation. The main endpoints we'll be using are the symbol lookup, company profile 2, quote, and lastly, candles. Let's start with symbol lookup. The Finnhub API gives us a sample response, so I'll copy paste this in. In our source folder, I'll create a new folder titled constants, and under that a new file called mock.js. Then I'll make a variable called mock search results and copy paste that. Make sure to export this variable as well. We'll do the same thing for the other endpoints. Let's go to company profile 2 and copy paste this. I'll title this mock company details. The next one we'll do is mock stock quote. And make sure to export these. Let's go to stock quote. Same thing here. I'll copy paste this response. And lastly, I'll create a mock historical data. And this will come from the candles endpoint. Again, we'll copy paste this sample response. If you're interested in skipping that step, you can head over to the source code, which I'll leave a link in the description for. Under constants mock.js, you can simply copy paste all of this. For the last step, I'll create a config file that will be used to help us with our chart. Under constants, create a new file called config.js. I'll create a variable called chart config. This object will contain all the chart filters that we want to use. For instance, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, and 1 year. For each chart filter or time frame, I'll give the object some data. So in particular, this will be defined as days 1, weeks 0, months 0, and years 0. We'll do the same for each one. But of course we'll update this. For this one, we'll have it as weeks 1, and the rest is 0. For 1 month, same thing. And lastly for 1 year. The last attribute we'll give to the chart filter for each one is a resolution. What this is exactly is that the Finnhub API requires a resolution as one of its arguments. The options are 1, 5, 15, 30, 60, day, week, or month. The specifics aren't really important for this, so we can just go ahead and use the ones I've selected. Once again, if you're interested in skipping this step, you can simply head over to my source code and under source/constants/config.js, simply copy paste this in. It might not be too clear why we need these values, but it'll help us later on when we're building our chart, in particular that stock chart where we can filter it by day, by week, month, or by year. For the last step, we'll actually start our app and make sure everything is working as expected. Enter npm start. If you followed along up until now, the app should be running normally. Now that we completed the setup, we'll be able to jump into the interesting hands-on work for creating the stock dashboard. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video.